That's exactly what this world is. It is a stage. If you're unable to understand what Shakespeare meant by that, then truthfully, you've got a lot to learn. One of my favorite sayings is, everything moves, everything changes. This is one of my favorite sayings because it is indeed true. This exact saying can be applied to chess pieces moving on the board as well. Now, I've already used this example a couple of times in the past, so I won't go deeper into simplifying this example. But what I will reveal to you all on this video is how the world is extremely deceptive and much more interconnected than what you perceive it to be. There isn't a single human being on earth who is more crafty and deceptive than the one who opposes God on every front. Satan is often referred to as being the great counterfeit, which is a nickname given to him by mankind. The reason why many of mankind refer to him as such is because of his desire to want to be seen, treated as, and worshiped the same way God is. Now, Satan has been crafty since the beginning, since the moment he decided he would take over God's kingdom. As you all already know, he was cast out of heaven and fell into hell along with the other angelic beings who decided to follow him. Some may question why Satan wars so relentlessly against God, but the truth is very simple. He is certain he can win. There is a deceptive tactic that high-ranking officials in the Dark Kingdom use when wanting to get a message across. They do not transmit these messages to you in the form of an email, a text message, a pleasant phone call, or a conversation. Those who've been given control over this world like to use the tactics that Satan tells them to use. Messages to mankind that stem from Satan, given to the masses by the puppet masters of this world, come in the form of symbolism, colors, subliminal messages, codes, and various forms of imagery. You see, folks, here's the thing. There are spiritual laws in place within this world that have nothing to do with what you've read online, in person, PDF files you've downloaded, your family traditions, and the conversations you've shared with others. Not a single Luciferian in Satan's kingdom cares if you do not come into agreement with what they know and perform. It's not like we see ourselves as heroes anyways. These spiritual laws are in place to keep everything in order, even concerning all things you cannot see with human eyes. When you all lay your eyes upon these colors, subliminal messages, symbolisms, various forms of imagery, and codes given to you by high-ranking members of Satan's kingdom, you have now lost your right to claim ignorance before God on the day of judgment. Satan knows this. He also knows simultaneously that too many of you people are severely, spiritually weak-minded, along with being too prideful and too ignorant to understand what is happening. Satan always tells the world many of the things he's going to do next, what he's currently doing, and or what is going on around you. For centuries, Satan did not care if the masses of mankind didn't care about his existence. However, as times have progressed and knowledge has increased, Satan now desires for mankind to know about his existence, whether they care about it or not. Deception concerning symbolism can be used to mislead or manipulate people by attaching false meanings to symbols. For example, a deceptive political group might use a symbol that appears innocent but represents a radical agenda. People who are unaware of this hidden meaning can be easily deceived. To communicate covertly, individuals or groups can use symbols with specific meanings that are only understood by a select few. This can be used in secret societies or espionage to convey messages without arousing suspicion. Deception concerning colors can evoke strong emotions and associations. Deceptive marketing or propaganda campaigns can use colors to create false impressions. For instance, a product packaging may use vibrant colors to imply freshness, even if the product is not as fresh as it seems. In covert communication, specific colors can be used as codes. For example, during wartime, military units might use colored flags or lights to communicate strategic information without revealing their plans to the enemy. Deceptions concerning subliminal messages are stimuli that are below the threshold of conscious awareness but can still influence behavior. Deceptive advertising might use subliminal messages to encourage people to buy products by appealing to their subconscious desires without their knowledge. Subliminal messages can be employed to convey hidden messages. This can be done through quick flashes of text or images in media to communicate covert information that's not readily perceived by the conscious mind. Deceptive imagery can be used to create false narratives or misrepresent reality. For instance, in photo manipulation, images can be altered to show events or people in a way that didn't occur. Imagery can be used to convey hidden information through steganography, a technique of hiding messages within images. By subtly altering pixels in an image, individuals can embed secret messages that are difficult to detect without the proper decryption tools. Now, when it comes to subliminal messages, symbolism, and imagery, some of you may be able to catch on to these, maybe. But when it comes to colors, many people can't catch on at all. I'll explain though. Stay focused as I'm about to lay this on you all thick.
Color can be a means of expression, but it all started as a factor of survival.
Flowers use color that humans can't even perceive to attract certain insects for pollination. And some insects even use color to warn a potential predator of defensive toxins.
So if color plays such a vital role in some of the smaller organisms in life, imagine how it affects us humans. We respond to color neurologically, biochemically, and psychologically. And although there's still a lot of mystery and complexity surrounding color, we can use what we do know to tell better and more powerful visual stories.
Now, before jumping into the meaning of colors, I really want to thank Skillshare for making this video possible. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 15,000 classes in design, photo, filmmaking, and more. Everyone can take a class, try a project, and even teach a class themselves. Premium membership begins only at around $10 a month for unlimited access to learning.
So let's jump right in and let's start with the most striking color of them all. The red within our bodies gives us life, but if it escapes us, it can also mean death.
Red has this duality to its various meanings, and it's almost always connected to an extreme emotion. This is probably because red is internalized in humans by radiant energy of specific wavelengths, and this increases muscle tone, our breathing, and even our blood pressure.
So that still sounds crazy to me, but that is a prime example of how we can use color to our advantage. And maybe splashing a little red in your scene might not be enough on its own, but if you combine it with a powerful line of dialogue, with a certain action or a certain environment, it could tremendously add to your story. So just as any other color, your audience cultural background will definitely affect how they internalize that color, but here are some of the common things that are associated with red.
Passion, danger, anger, excitement, vengeance, war, and I can go on.
So of course there are a ton of other meanings, but you don't even have to be limited by those meanings. You can make up your own.
So we mentioned how yellow can be associated with gold and the everlasting. And remember how I said that our cultural background affects the way that we interpret color? Well, traditional Chinese culture links yellow to the most valuable things in life.
In fact, during the Qing dynasty, the emperor was the only one allowed to wear yellow clothing. So maybe you don't have to pitch your movie to a Chinese audience and this might not matter to you, but again, just take notice how the meaning of color can shift just based on geography alone. So the Western culture can see, like we mentioned, yellow as gold or as the divine. And interestingly enough, Islamic culture actually has two different meanings depending on how saturated the color yellow is. So if you have a very vibrant yellow, that could mean wisdom, but if it's more of a pale yellow or a desaturated tone of yellow, that could mean betrayal. So I could go on, but one thing in common that all humans have with yellow is that it is the most visible to us. So we can see yellow from a greater distance than any other color. So this is probably why most road signs are yellow. But here are some other common things associated with this color.
Aging, value, warning, power, enlightenment, and success.
Also, for some reason, babies tend to cry when they see yellow. On to my favorite color, blue. Unlike green, blue can be rarely found in nature other than the sky and bodies of water. And it does have some calming qualities, so it's very similar to green in that sense. And we even release calming chemicals when we do see blue, so that could explain why we see blue in a lot of hospital rooms.
So it's no surprise that tranquility, harmony, faith, and loyalty are some of the things associated with blue. And other meanings can include spirituality, fulfillment, stability, technology, sadness, and cleanliness.
The processing of colors involves complex interactions between neurological, psychological, and biochemical mechanisms. Here's an overview of how colors are processed in these different aspects. The first section I'll start is with neurological processing, which has 4 components: retina, 3 cone types, opponent process theory, and color processing pathways. Color perception begins in the retina of the eye, where there are specialized cells called photoreceptors. There are 2 main types of photoreceptors, cones and rods. Cones are responsible for color vision, while rods are more sensitive to low light conditions. The human eye contains 3 types of cones that are sensitive to different parts of the color spectrum: short wavelength cones, which are most sensitive to blue light, middle wavelength cones, which are most sensitive to green light, and long wavelength cones, which are most sensitive to red light. These cones allow us to perceive a wide range of colors. Color processing in the visual system is often described by the opponent process theory. According to this theory, there are pairs of color-sensitive neurons that respond in opposite ways to color stimuli. For example, some neurons respond to red, green, yellow, blue color pairs. This theory helps explain how we perceive complementary colors in after images. The visual information from the retina is transmitted through the optic nerve to various brain regions. The primary visual cortex processes basic color information, and then color processing continues through the ventral and dorsal pathways, with the ventral pathway being more involved in color recognition and perception. Next, I'll talk about psychological processing, which has 3 important components, which are color perception, color vision theories, and color constancy. Color perception is a result of the brain's interpretation of the signals received from the cones in the retina. The brain processes these signals to generate the experience of color. There are several theories explaining how we perceive and categorize colors, including the trichromatic theory, which suggests that color vision is based on the activity of the 3 types of cones, and the opponent process theory, which accounts for the perception of color pairs. Color perception can be influenced by surrounding colors and lighting conditions. Color constancy is the ability of the brain to perceive an object as having the same color even under different lighting conditions. This is an important aspect of color perception. Finally, I'll talk about the biochemical processing of the eyes, which has 3 important components, which are called retinoopsins, retinal processing, and color blindness. The biochemical basis of color vision involve opsins, which are proteins found in the photoreceptor cells. Different opsins are sensitive to different wavelengths of light. The absorption of photons by opsins triggers a cascade of biochemical reactions, ultimately leading to the transmission of neural signals to the brain. The absorption of light by opsins leads to change in the photoreceptor cell's membrane potential. This, in turn, influences the release of neurotransmitters such as glutamate, which modulate the signals sent to the brain. Color vision deficiencies, commonly known as color blindness, result from genetic mutations in the genes coding for the opsins in cone cells. This leads to a reduced ability to perceive certain colors. Now, all of that is good information, biomedical scientific information for many of you to know. But could any of that information help you all catch on to this? Now, have you all seen the movie Babylon? It's not the best movie, but if you have some downtime and want to watch something, I'd recommend it. Satan loves the color red. All demons do. Do you know how the color red is used in this movie? I'll describe it for you. For example, in the opening scene, red is used to create a sense of excitement and chaos. The party is in full swing, and the dancers are dressed in red costumes. The red lights and the red carpet add to the festive atmosphere. Red is also used to symbolize Nellie Leroy's ambition and determination. Margot Robbie, the actress, is the lady who plays as Nellie Leroy in this movie. In one scene, she is wearing a red dress and red lipstick when she confronts Jack Conrad about her career. The red color conveys her confidence and her determination to succeed. Red is also used to represent the danger and excess of Hollywood. In one scene, Nellie is gambling at a casino and she is wearing a red dress. She loses all of her money and she is forced to borrow money from Jack Conrad. The red color in this scene symbolizes the temptation and danger of gambling. Another example of the color red being used symbolically is the scene where Nellie is filming her first sound film. She is wearing a red dress and she is singing a song about love and passion. The red color in this scene symbolizes the power of cinema to evoke strong emotions. The color red is also used to create a sense of visual unity throughout the film. Red is often used in the backgrounds and the costumes. This helps to create a sense of immersion for the viewer, and it also helps to unify the film's aesthetic. Overall, the color red is used in Babylon to create a sense of excitement, passion, danger, and excess. It is also used to symbolize Nellie Leroy's ambition and determination and the power of cinema and to evoke strong emotions. So, we now know that the color red predominantly means one of three things: passion, fashion, or various forms of action. Now, notice the symbolism you see on the cover of the movie. I told you all that Satan loves to communicate indirectly to the masses. For a supernatural being that hates mankind, he speaks to the world very often. Do you all see Margot Robbie on the cover of the movie? Look at her attire and look at her surroundings. What do you see? Celebration, right? Reveling, right? Satisfaction and glee, maybe. Now, do you see the seductive, lovely red attire she's wearing? It exudes passion, sensual ferocity, and seductive boldness, doesn't it? Does this remind you all of anything? It reminds me of something. You see, people, Satan hates God, and because he hates God, he likes to mock the word of God, which includes prophecy. Now look at this. Is this cover of the movie not parallel to what you've just read in this scripture? Do not be contrary. Of course it is. What you're seeing here is symbolism, a good old-fashioned trick off the old satanic block. Speaking of Babylon, are any of you aware of how the color red was used in ancient Babylon? Let me explain. The ancient Babylonians used the color red in a variety of ways. The first way was ceremonial and religious purposes. Red was associated with the gods and with royalty in ancient Babylon. It was used in the decoration of temples and palaces and the clothing of priests and kings. The statue of the god Marduk was also dressed in a red robe. The second way is magic and protection. Red was also associated with magic and protection in ancient Babylon. It was used in amulets to ward off evil spirits and to protect the wearer from harm. For example, red beads were often used in necklaces and bracelets, and red amulets were placed in the graves of the dead. The third way is healing and medicine. Red was also used in healing and medicine in ancient Babylon. It was believed to have the power to heal wounds and cure diseases. For example, red clay was applied to wounds to stop bleeding, and red pigments were used in medicines to treat a variety of ailments. The fourth and final way was cosmetics and fashion. Red was also used in cosmetics and fashion in ancient Babylon. Women used red pigments to paint their lips and cheeks, and men used red dyes to color their hair and beards. Red clothing was also popular among men and women. The use of the color red in ancient Babylon was extensive and varied. It was used in religious and ceremonial contexts, in magic and protection, in healing and medicine, and cosmetics and fashion. The color red was important to the ancient Babylonians, and it played a significant role in their culture and society. Now, if you all decide to watch this movie, you will notice a lot of rich people having fun, enjoying their wealth, sexuality, and celebrations taking place. This type of theme is also in connection to ancient Babylon. Let me explain. Celebrations and parties in ancient Babylon were lavish affairs. They were often associated with the religious festivals such as the Akitu New Year Festival, or with royal events such as coronations and weddings. The Akitu New Year Festival was the most important in ancient Babylon. It was a multi-day event that celebrated the rebirth of the natural world and the renewal of the cosmic order. The festival began with the procession of the statues of the gods through the streets of Babylon. The statues were then taken to the Isagila temple complex, where they were bathed and anointed. The king then performed a ritual in which he renewed his vows to the gods. The festival ended with a feast and a parade. Other important festivals in ancient Babylon included the Zajmuk festival, which celebrated the beginning of spring, the Nabu festival, which celebrated the god of learning and wisdom, and the Tammuz festival, which mourned the death of the god of vegetation. Royal events in ancient Babylon were also celebrated with lavish parties and feasts. When a new king was crowned, there would be a procession through the streets of Babylon, followed by a feast and a banquet. Weddings of royal family members were also celebrated with great pomp and ceremony. In addition to these major festivals and events, the ancient Babylonians also held smaller celebrations and parties regularly. These celebrations could be held to mark any occasion, such as a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or a business success. Ancient Babylonian parties were typically held in the homes of the wealthy or public places, such as temples or gardens. The guests would be served food and drink, and there would be music and dancing. The ancient Babylonians were also known for their gambling, and games of chance were often played at parties. Let me give you some specific examples of what celebrations and parties might have been like in ancient Babylon. At a New Year festival, the streets of Babylon would be decorated with streamers and flags. People would wear their best clothes and jewelry. There would be music and dancing, and food and drink would be served in abundance. At a royal wedding, the bride and groom would be dressed in elaborate clothing. They would be crowned with flowers and precious metals. The guests would be served a feast of the finest foods and wines. There would be music and dancing, and acrobats and jugglers would perform. At a private party, the guests would be seated around tables and served food and drink. There would be music and dancing, and games of chance might be played. The guests might also recite poetry or tell stories. Celebrations and parties were an important part of ancient Babylonian life. They were a time for people to come together and enjoy themselves. They were also a time to celebrate the important events in people's lives and to honor the gods. Let me remind you all that I need you all to grasp the spiritual understanding behind what it is I'm teaching you all in this video. America, which is the country I, as well as many of you, live in, is spiritual Babylon. Now you may ask, what and how is America spiritual Babylon? I'll explain this to you now. Spiritual Babylon is a term used in the Bible to symbolize a system of opposition to God and his kingdom. It is often associated with materialism, idolatry, and false religion. In the book of Revelation, Babylon is portrayed as a great city that is full of sin and corruption. It is said to be the home of the harlot of Babylon, who represents false religion. Babylon is also said to be the center of the world's trade and commerce. Spiritual Babylon is not just a literal city. It is also a system of thought and behavior that is opposed to God. It is a system that values materialism, power, and pleasure over spiritual things. Some of the characteristics of spiritual Babylon include materialism, a focus on worldly possessions and pleasures, idolatry, worship of anything other than God, such as money, power, or fame, false religion, any religion that teaches false doctrines or that leads people away from God, pride, a belief that one is better than others, selfishness, a focus on one's own needs and desires above the needs of others. A spiritual Babylon can be found in all areas of society, including government, business, education, and religion. It is also important to be aware of the dangers of spiritual Babylon and to resist its temptations. Here are some examples of how spiritual Babylon can manifest itself in our world today, in this country today. A politician who is more interested in power and prestige than in serving the people. A business executive who cuts corners and exploits workers to make more money. A religious leader who teaches false doctrines or who leads people away from God. A person who is more concerned with their possessions and pleasures than with the needs of others. You cannot sit up here and tell me that I just didn't describe the United States of America. Yes, there are other wealthy and powerful nations just like America that have these same types of people. systems, and beliefs, but they do not perform these same actions to the degree that America does. Let me take you back to the cover of the screen yet again. Keep in mind what you're looking at is symbolism. Tell me what it is you see. Tell me, how does this cover make you feel? What emotions is the movie Babylon trying to invoke? How does the movie trailer make you think? I'm aware that mankind is complex, but look at the cover and read the description of the movie. Look at it and take in everything. How are the producers of the movie trying to make you feel? I have an answer. Excitement. The trailer shows scenes of lavish parties, extravagant costumes, and thrilling action sequences. This suggests that the movie will be a visually stunning and exciting experience. Awe. The trailer also shows scenes of Nellie Leroy, who is Robbie's character, rising to stardom and experiencing the glamour and excitement of Hollywood. This suggests that the movie will inspire awe and admiration in the viewer. Nostalgia. The movie is set in the golden age of Hollywood, a period that is often romanticized and idealized. This suggests that the movie will evoke feelings of nostalgia in the viewer. Melancholy. The trailer also hints at the darker side of Hollywood, including the challenges of fame and the dangers of excess. This suggests that the movie may also evoke feelings of melancholy and sadness in the viewer. Hope. Ultimately, the trailer suggests that the movie is a story about hope and perseverance. Nellie Leroy is a young woman who overcomes many obstacles to achieve her dreams. This suggests that the movie will inspire hope and optimism in the viewer. Do you know what these emotions, imagery, symbolism, colors, codes, and glamour of this movie are working on as viewers? A lesser magic. What is lesser magic? Here I'll explain. Greater and lesser magic, known also as high and low magic or collectively satanic magic within Lavey and Satanism, designate types of beliefs with the term greater magic applying to ritual practice meant as psychodramatic catharsis to focus one's emotions for a specific purpose, and lesser magic applies to the practice of manipulation by means of applied psychology and glamour, or wile and guile, to bend an individual or situation to one's will. What this movie uses, whether known to the actors and viewers of this movie or not, is lesser magic. Now, what is lesser magic? Lesser magic, also referred to as everyday or situational magic, is the practice of manipulation by means of applied psychology. Lavey wrote that a key concept in lesser magic is the command to look, which can be accomplished by utilizing elements of sex, sentiment, and wonder, in addition to the utilization of looks, body language, scent, color, patterns, and odor. Lavey wrote that the terms fascination and glamour have origins in the world of coercive magic. The word fascination comes from the Latin word fascinare, which means to cast a spell upon. This system encourages a form of manipulative role play, wherein the practitioner may alter several elements of their physical appearance in order to aid them in seducing or bewitching an object of desire. Think back to when I asked you all what emotions is Babylon trying to invoke. I then followed up and gave you more than a few answers to the emotions this entire movie is trying to evoke. Was I wrong? No, I wasn't. This movie shows all of what you hear about Hollywood, the good and bad. I do not doubt that this movie sows seeds into the minds of many, giving them the desire to want to become Hollywood stars. Now, do you all see the yellowish golden colors in the background of this movie? Listen closely. Do you remember earlier in the video where the man was explaining to you all how in Western culture, the color yellow is seen as gold or as the divine? That means the word yellow is polysemy. Now, check this out. It is obvious gold was used for jewelry, coins, and fashion in ancient Babylon. But did you know that the Babylonians also used gold for religious and ritualistic practices? In ancient Babylon, gold held great significance in religious practices and was often associated with their beliefs and rituals. Here are some ways in which gold was used in Babylonian religion. Temples and statues. Gold was frequently used in the construction and decoration of temples dedicated to various gods and goddesses. The Babylonians believed that by adorning these sacred spaces with gold, they were honoring the deities and inviting their favor. Statues of gold and goddesses were often made of or decorated with gold to represent the divine nature of these figures. Offerings and sacrifices. Gold objects, such as jewelry and ornaments, were offered as gifts and sacrifices to the gods. These offerings were meant to seek divine protection, blessings, and goodwill. The use of gold in such offerings demonstrated the reverence and devotion of the worshippers. Religious ceremonies. Gold items played a role in various religious ceremonies and rituals. Priests and priestesses may have worn gold jewelry and used gold vessels and utensils in these ceremonies to symbolize the sacred nature of the rituals and to ensure their proper execution. Idol worship. Many Babylonians practiced idol worship, and idols were often adorned with gold or other precious materials. These idols represented various deities and were central to the religious practices of the time. Burial rituals. Gold objects were sometimes buried with the deceased in accordance with their belief in an afterlife. These objects were thought to accompany the deceased and ensure a favorable transition to the next world. Oracle and divination tools. Babylonian priests and priestesses often used precious objects, including gold, and divination and oracles. These tools were believed to facilitate communication with the divine and guide on important matters. Sacred texts and inscriptions. Gold may have been used to embellish sacred texts or inscriptions that held religious significance. These texts were sometimes considered divine and were adorned with precious materials to enhance their importance. Religious processions and festivals. Gold items were used in religious processions and festivals to display the grandeur of the religious events. These processions were public displays of religious devotion and were often accompanied by music, dancing, and other forms of celebration. Now, is there a connection between how gold was used in the movie Babylon and ancient Babylon? Yes. Gold is used in the movie Babylon starring Margot Robbie in a variety of ways, both literally and symbolically. The literal interpretation is that Nellie Leroy wears golden jewelry throughout the film, including necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and rings. This jewelry symbolizes her wealth and success. The costumes of many of the other characters in the film also feature gold accents, which helps to create a sense of opulence and glamour. The sets of many of the scenes in the film, such as the Hollywood parties and the mansions of the movie stars, are also decorated with gold. This further contributes to the sense of luxury and excess. The symbolic interpretation of the movie is that gold is often used in the film to symbolize the allure and temptation of Hollywood. Nellie Leroy is drawn to the gold of Hollywood like a moth to a flame. She is willing to sacrifice everything in pursuit of fame and fortune. Gold is also used in the film to symbolize the corruption and darkness of Hollywood. The gold of Hollywood is often associated with greed, materialism, and excess. In the end, the gold of Hollywood is shown to be fleeting and meaningless, and Nellie Leroy achieves her dreams of wealth and fame, but she is ultimately left empty and unfulfilled. The use of gold in the movie Babylon is effective in both its literal and symbolic forms. It helps to create a sense of opulence and glamour, but it also highlights the important side of Hollywood. Here are some specific examples of how gold is used in the movie Babylon. In the opening scene of the film, Nellie Leroy is shown wearing a golden necklace and earrings. This symbolizes her wealth and ambition. The costume of Jack Conrad, who is Brad Pitt's character, often features gold accents such as a gold tie pin and a gold cufflink. This symbolizes his power and status in Hollywood. The set of the Hollywood party that Nellie Leroy attends early in the film is decorated with gold balloons and streamers. This creates a sense of opulence and glamour. The mansion where Nellie Leroy lives after she becomes a star is also decorated with gold accents. This further contributes to the sense of luxury and excess. At the end of the film, Nellie Leroy is shown throwing her gold jewelry into a pool. This symbolizes her rejection of the materialism and emptiness of Hollywood. If you live in America, you and I are living in spiritual Babylon.
Just saying I'm the man, facts bro, lot of haters, tell me where